Ghana for mama kwaba edeba Ghana tube so my number one channel news koso any day eba ewo man mu ye ko ne ko hwehwe ne papa ne yaso ne so na abram na mu na mate nsem aya koso any day eba ewo man mu na emom ne nsem ni wo na se ebeto dwasa na mamu nim se mu edu ede man yen se yebeka ana se ebehwehwe mu ede amam te ne mamu ko kwakotie na nsem no mu entwe mu eye pan ne de eba ye ka ho so da ko
is one of the biggest stories of the judicial service in this Fourth Republic. And this is not the first time that there has been such a massive attempt to remove a lady Chief Justice. The first one was during Georgina Wood. Incidentally, the circumstances were similar. The NDC had just won election after a two-term MPP government. John Ajekum Kufuor, he had appointed Georgina Wood after Chief Justice Akwa. As soon as the NDC came into office, there was incessant pressure on Professor Mills, then, and his vice president, John Dramani Mahama, to remove the Chief Justice, to accept a petition to remove the Lord Chief Justice. So it's almost like a deja vu. History repeats itself. When Akufo-Addo and when the MPP won elections in 2001, when John Kufuor came in, there was no issue about removing Justice Aban. Justice Aban was working. He felt completely unwell. And then he had to step aside for Justice Redu back in the day. And then in 2017, when Akufo-Addo came in, Georgina Wood was still the Chief Justice, having been appointed by John Kufuor, having survived the onslaught upon her during the Mills era. Professor Mills had to make a definitive statement publicly that as a law professor, he's not about to do something unconstitutional and remove the Chief Justice. So that also didn't work. John Dramani Mahama was the vice president of the time. Now, since the NDC won the elections, the things that we've been hearing, and tonight later I'll be showing you what Justice Atuguba said, which is very interesting, but we'll come to that in a minute. President Mahama is also being under incessant pressure to remove the Chief Justice, Justice Tokonu, having been appointed by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2023. Tokonu's appointment as Chief Justice came as a relief and as refreshing to many, given that she was the Chief Justice appointed in recent times who has practiced as a judge in all the courts of superior courts of judicature, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. She had gone through the mill. She's been a judge for 20 years. Immediately, she came in and she had led many of the reforms under Georgina Wood, under Sophia Akufu, her predecessor. She had led many of the reforms, particularly the IT reforms that is now making the courts look more modern, like America. So many corporate people were quite excited about the arrival of Justice Tokonu, because in our minds, Supreme Court judges were always constitutional law people. Justice Aban, Justice Redu, Justice Akwa, Justice Akufo-Addo of the past, Justice Apalu, and all of these men, ENP Soa, these were constitutional lawyers. You know, in those days, that's really what it was. Justice Tokonu comes in with a breadth of different things: constitutional law, and more importantly, the administrative capacity to run the judiciary. So many were quite excited about this. In fact, in the final analysis towards the choice of Justice Tokonu, one of the Supreme Court judges, whose name I will not mention now, said that if Justice Tokonu didn't get the job and the other person got it, he was going to resign as a Supreme Court judge. Somebody said that. It's on record. We'll talk about it later. Many people know. So then Justice Tokonu got into the 2024 election issues, where cases were going to the Supreme Court left, right, and center. As it is with almost every election season, you find a lot of writs going to the Supreme Court. In Ghana, in America, is always the same. So she sat on some of them, and the NDC were not happy with some of it. The MPP too were not happy with some of it. In fact, recently she dismissed a petition against my favorite friend Kisi Ajabe, the special prosecutor. Justice Tokonu dismissed that petition, which was filed by Ken Crunchy. And some MPP people were very, very angry with her, that this woman is NDC and some NDC people too were very angry with her, that this woman, when the Babin did the vacancy, she ruled in a certain way. Some MPP people said, did you see her body language at the court when Jogate was talking, a whole former attorney general and former deputy speaker? Do you see how she spoke to Jogate? She should get away from there. So
for any for and some so any day eba or my edit can't edit and I was so a good so I would measure pan say wuti na adventure. I also if I some no jump Eddie mammy comment section hall young queen and you could see near to us.
there were some MPP people who were angry with Justice Tokonu, and there were some NDC people who were angry with her. Then the NDC won the election. It didn't come as a surprise that concerns were raised about Justice Tokonu and NDC people saying that she must leave, she must go, she must leave. So finally, 2 days ago, or was it 3 days ago, we were told by Felix Kwakye-Ofosu that His Excellency the President has received 3 petitions for the removal of her ladyship, Justice Tokonu. Then the legal, all the lawyers, pocket lawyers, proper lawyers, all started discussing what is likely to happen. Our responsibility tonight is to explain to you viewers how Article 146 changes when the petition is against the Lord Chief Justice, and what is the potential effect of the writ that has been filed by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tafo, Vincent Eko Asifwa, good friend of mine. Hi Vincent, how are you? Nice man, very nice boy. Nice man, did I say boy? It's a nice man. So the writ that has been filed by Vincent, we're going to look at it in detail tonight, and then we'll explain to you why the argument in terms of, has there been a so-called prima facie? What does that word mean? Has the president done a prima facie? Should the president do it? Or should the Chief Justice do it? All of this is arising because the law says that where the petition is against another Supreme Court judge, the president will forward the petition to the Chief Justice to make the prima facie. Indeed, as we are talking, there is a petition that has gone to the president for the removal of another Supreme Court judge. That petition has been forwarded to Gertrude Tokonu to make a prima facie decision about that Supreme Court judge, whether they should constitute a panel to remove him from the Supreme Court or not. Right now, as we speak, that is there. The Supreme Court is going to sit on Wednesday to hear the matter, whether or not in triggering the process with the Council of State, the president and the government of President Mahama have violated portions of Article 1466 of the 1992 Constitution. If the panel on Wednesday come to the conclusion that yes, the injunction should be granted, that is a big story. If the panel on Wednesday comes to the conclusion that the injunction fails, that is an even bigger story. What will happen? Let's see what happens. But Justice Atuguba has an idea. Justice Atuguba, our good friend, has an idea. And this is what he said. I was completely flabbergasted when I saw it. This is coming from a former Supreme Court judge who could nearly have been Chief Justice. That's what he says. He says when the executive needs a reform, the president is changed. When the legislative needed a reform, the speaker was changed. When the judiciary needs a reform, the Chief Justice needs to be changed. If Nanado could remove the electoral commissioner, the auditor general, and it was good, so should John Mahama be able to remove the Chief Justice. Did he really say that? I hope he didn't. You know, these days you see these things. I hope he didn't. Justice Atuguba said this. I mean, Atuguba is the one who was teaching us. How is he saying that? In some countries, judges are voted for. And everybody knows that. Any political science students knows that. In some countries, they vote for judges. In America, they vote for attorney generals. Attorney General of New York is elected. In some countries, the Chief Justice is elected. They go to ballot and vote. In some countries, it's not elected. In those countries that the Chief Justice is not elected, there's a reason, there's a philosophy behind it why those countries decide that we will not elect a Chief Justice. Because they don't want the Chief Justice to be subject of electoral vote and vote and those things we do in elections, up and downs, and they vote. So when Justice Atuguba here compares the executive that is elected, that when we don't want the executive, we vote them out, and compares it to the legislature that is elected, when we don't want the legislature, we vote them out, and then draws in the Supreme Court that is not elected for the sanctity and protection of our national constitution. We do not elect Supreme Court judges, we appoint them. And then they have security of tenure of office, except they have done something egregiously wrong through impeachment. You don't remove a Supreme Court judge. Justice Atuguba says that because president is elected, because legislature is elected, even though Supreme Court judges are not elected, we should subject them to the equation of election. I think that is very sad, totally embarrassing, completely shocking that a distinguished Supreme Court judge will make a statement like this. I mean, why? This is just the NDC MPP politics now is doing us like that. I mean, why? As such a distinguished Supreme Court judge. I have a lot of respect for that policeman. I gained a lot of respect for him. The policeman who was fighting with Dampare, who went to run for MP and didn't get, Alex Mensah. When the Dampare issue happened, the Dampare removal, he said that it is good that Dampare has been removed, but he condemns the jubilation at the police headquarters. He was speaking like a COP, that this jubilation is wrong. And when we have public servants who have left the system and talk like that, it helps the system. Because the jubilant policemen were expecting that, I was expecting that Alex Mensah will be happy. Alex Mensah said, well, yeah, it's good that, but you can't jubilate when the IGP is gone, he's your boss. Now, contrast that to my Lord, Mr. Justice Atuguba, who says that president is elected, parliamentarians are elected. When we don't like president, we change it. Do we have a schedule in Ghana where every 4 years we go and elect chief justice? Do we do that? Every 4 years, do we go and elect a chief justice? We want our constitutional democracy to be sustained. He of all people, a law lord, must want the constitutional democracy to be sustained. That's why we have one chief justice swearing in 3-4 presidents. Chief Justice Georgina Wood swore in Professor Mills. Chief Justice Georgina Wood swore in President John Dramani Mahama. Chief Justice Georgina Wood swore in Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Chief Justice Aban swore in Fly Lieutenant Rawlings in 1997. Chief Justice Aban swore in John Ajekum Kufuor, because the chief justices are not subject to elections, so that they have longevity and they have administrative authority. Justice Atuguba, who was the lead judge for the election petition 1, such a distinguished career, now says that when the executive needs reform, the president is changed. The president is not changed when executive needs reform. The president is changed at the ballot box every 4 years. We can change presidents every 4 years. That's the constitution that we have written to ourselves. So it's not, we don't change because the executive needs reform. If the executive needs reform in 2018, we will not be able to change it because we have to wait for 2020 before there's an election. If today the executive needs reform, we can identify it. Even if we come to the conclusion, every Ghanaian comes to the conclusion that the executive in Ghana needs reform, we cannot do anything about it until December 7, 2028. That is the constitution that we have given to ourselves. And you have a Supreme Court judge speaking in a way that completely undermines the constitution in this manner. Oh my goodness. Wow. My Lord, how are you? My Lord, good evening, my Lord. Your Lordship, with the greatest of respect, your Lordship, with the greatest of respect, this one, I beg you, my Lord, with the greatest of respect, this one, come again. I beg you, my Lord, come again.
For anything for her, and I'm going to miss you, Fefe. I will some I also any day by our man and Michelle. And now, if we may have a Ghanatube, so Macron.